Cathy.
My name is Cathy Davis. I'm the director at the Lincoln Cultural Center. I've been heavily involved in our community over the years with children's initiatives, and have considered running for school board on other occasions, but about a year and a half ago, the Lord graced me with my first granddaughter. And as it is when everybody's deciding what that daughter's going to do, granddaughter's going to do, her father said, I don't want her to go to public schools, and that just perplexed me, and I thought, you know, I got to do something about that, and thought that this would be a good time for me to start my candidacy.
Candidates. Given that our budget dollars are limited, what would be your 3 priorities, spending priorities, in the school system, in rank order?
2 minutes each, please, start the show.
Okay.
Okay. Classroom assets would be at the top of my priority list, I believe, whether that be technology, curriculum-driven, or materials for the classrooms that the educators didn't have to spend their dollars on. Another would be to ensure that we have adequate facilities on an ongoing basis, and that we don't let them deteriorate in any manner, so that we're staying on top of those kind of things. And another would be, of course, anything that would help to ensure that we had quality educators in the system.
Well, actually, I was going to address, well, my question is to the school board and to everyone. I'd like to address the question of compensation. I actually agree with the gentleman over here, but I don't want to keep asking the question. So let me ask you a question about pay for teachers. And I recognize, I'm a corporate executive from Southern California. I just moved here a year ago. So I recognize that and I actually know some teachers pretty well. I recognize that the pay in Lincoln County on a national average is low. But I'd like to understand what the group here feels about pay for competence and competency testing. One of the things that I've honestly been, in all due respect to the teachers, been appalled at is the number of teachers in our system here that cannot even say 10 words in a row without a grammar mistake. And it's just unbelievable to me that these are the people educating my children. I have 2 children in the school system, middle school and high school, and it's appalling to me, in some cases, the caliber of the teachers. So I'm all for compensation and making it fair, but what is your collective views on competency testing? And would you do you feel that it's the taxpayers and parents are getting value when teachers cannot even speak English correctly?
I have a sister that's a teacher, and I have two of my own children are teachers, so this comes up frequently when we have family gatherings. And having spent much of my life prior to working in nonprofit in human resources, I've never worked a job previously where my performance wasn't evaluated. And I do agree that somehow we have to find a manner in which we can evaluate the performance of teachers and compensate them accordingly. But I think it'll be a tough job for the Department of Public Instruction and anyone else to design a matrix that you can measure all teachers on, given the variations of the subjects that they teach and the types of curriculums that they have. It'll be a difficult thing to do, but I don't think that it's not something that we shouldn't work toward. I do think that would be a way to eliminate the poorest of the teachers, because once they score poorly, then there could be some type of disciplinary action or some kind of track or method to track progress, and if they're not making that progress, then at that time that they could be released. I am not, I hope that tenure is something that will go by the wayside. I'll just make that statement.
Another question, school board. Yes.
Cathy, I think you mentioned, did you say you had a grandchild and someone said not public school? Yes. Okay, my question is to all the school board candidates. I hear such wonderful things about the charter school. I don't have children in school, but I hear that over and over and over, and I suppose that might be the backbone of your question. If the money goes to charter schools and all the Lincoln County schools, then they have the same amount. Why are they doing so much better from what I hear from the community?
Start.
Well, I have a daughter that teaches at the charter school, and I have a sister that teaches in public school. I think that one of the primary reasons that charter school students tend to do better is, and if you're a parent in the public school system, I'm so sorry that I'm making this statement, but I believe there's a greater degree of parental involvement with your charter school students. And that is just from my observation and from those conversations that we're having at that dinner table. When I go to volunteer at my daughter's school, there are a lot of parents that are there alongside with me, and they stay involved with homework, and there's just a lot of our classrooms that lack that in the public school system. But in the public school system, you have a much larger variety of households that you're dealing with. You have some parents who work 2 jobs and barely see their child, and some that are fortunate enough to be in after-school programs, and others who are just not in any type of school program. So I think it's because you have a greater deal of interaction in those charter school parents than you do with the public school parents. And I hate to say that is the fault there, but I do believe that that's one of the reasons that our charter school students test higher and seem to perform better than our public school system.
My understanding is that the supplements are supposed to be paid to teachers, but there's a lot of administrative staff that are picking up on the supplements. Can I have your views on that and where that supplement money should go, please?
No funny in that fight. Okay. No dogs in that fight?
Yeah, no dogs.
Yes, Roger.
I have one quick question. Do principals, assistant principals, do any teaching at all, or are they just merely administrators?
John could make
I didn't
Maybe
understand.
Elaine could
Do any assistant principals actually teach classes?
No.
They don't? Okay.
Any other
They
questions?
get
Yes,
that
sir.
stuff?
Elaine can be in fact here, and Joan can be answer. 20% of the supplement money from the county commissioners goes to administrators. Administrators get a higher percentage than teachers do, and since they have higher base salaries, they get a lot more money. A principal, for example, will get almost 3 times as much supplement as a teacher. Would you like to?
Well, I stated in one of the other forums that I felt like the formula for supplement distribution should be realigned. And I even had a conversation with Daryl not so long ago and said, you know, I understand that you get supplement. I'm not saying that you don't agree the salary, that you don't deserve the salary that you get once that supplement is added. However, I don't think you deserve supplement. I think that supplement deserves to be with the educators and the people who are directly impacting the children in the classroom. So I do think that formula for supplement distribution needs to be like that.
Somebody in the room would like to know from each of the school board candidates how many relatives you have employed by the school system, without naming them necessarily, but
Yeah. He ties me up, I'll come back.
all right.
One. My sister teaches.
My board, we've been talking about how you would pay teachers, but I haven't heard anyone say how you would cut spending. How do you feel about the deficiencies and how the school is paying out monthly or in like electric bills, energy efficiency, facilities? Where's the fat in the budget and where would you start cutting?
Okay, I think your question was just what would we do to reduce line items on that budget, and I can tell you just in my conversations with Bob and seeing the work that he's done for our community, and whether you voted for him or you didn't, you gotta like the guy because he has saved us a ton of money, and I don't think he's gonna ease up on that. I think he'll continue to do that, and if elected, I would certainly partner with him on any initiatives that he had. I do have some questions, you know, from a private standpoint that I don't understand. I'd like to know more about how many vehicles do we own other than our buses, and who are they assigned to, and where are they driving them, and, you know, various other questions. But those are all things that I'm sure that you'd be privy to as a board and would pay attention to. But I think that we have a great advocate as far as our budget goes, and Bob said.
Like the school board?
Yeah, if you had to hire a new superintendent and you had two candidates that were closely qualified, but one just a little bit better than the other, but that person was from out of Lincoln County, would you take care of your own and hire within Lincoln County?
Cathy, let's start with that. That hand grenade?
I'll just say no. No, leave it at that.
No.
No, I would not recommend that we just hire our own.
Okay.
All right, I'd like to throw out my own again. That's a hypothetical question, somewhat hypothetical. You've got a school superintendent that you've been giving evaluations to at the rate of 3.8 or 3.9 out of 4 for 3 consecutive years. Why would you not vote to rehire that superintendent, Cathy? Or would you vote?
That's a loaded question.
Of course it is.
It was meant to be.
That was just, a similar question was just asked of the candidates from the Lincoln Times News, and we were given answers. And I think there was a great deal of information with the last superintendent that we were not privy to. And of course, that being a human resource issue, I believe that is why we were not privy to it. It's because it was not legal for us to be privy to it. But it would certainly have made it easier for us to understand as a public if we're seeing those types of numbers in performance evaluation, which I'm not saying that that's what those were. It would have made it much easier for us to understand where the problem lies. I mean, there would have to be some public knowledge of some type of discontent, but from a media standpoint, all we were seeing from our superintendent was glowing reviews. Now, whether or not that superintendent was in charge of those releases, I don't know that either. But I can't think of a single media release where I saw anything but everybody being content with our superintendent. So that being the case, if you've only got glowing reviews to base your opinion on, I cannot understand why we would release that superintendent.
You have a comment on this one?
I don't.
Any more questions?
I will.
Yes.
I'm a new person in this community, and we saw this incident go on, and, you're thinking, oh, we got a bunch of good old boys running this department here, and it's time for the good old boys to go. I think that people are, there's other people in this community other than the good old boys, and they're tired of it. And I think you better get the personal friends and family out of there and start voting for what's best for the kids.
Was there a question in there?
No.
I didn't think so.
Just a really
We have a
good statement.
question.